Well, there's the weather outlook for the week. That looks promising. Alright guys, this has turned into a mess. It's about 4 p.m. and I didn't work on Steve's car at all today. This turned into a big fiasco out here. So I made an attempt to move the 56 into my fenced area over here that I call my junkyard. And it's on a body cart with little tiny casters, and it hasn't rained in like 4 days. So I figured the ground would be dry enough. Apparently not. As soon as I got it out here in the grass pretty far, pulling it with the truck, it sunk in the ground and it wouldn't move. So at that point, the 56 body is stuck right out there in the middle of the side of my yard, which looks really awesome, by the way. So I ended up deciding I'll just get the plasma cutter out and I'm gonna cut it to pieces. I was gonna cut the roof off, cut the firewall off, cut the quarters off, just cut it to pieces to where I can move pieces around. And my cord is not long enough to reach that far because my plasma is 230 volt. So that was a fail. So at that point, I have an S10 chassis in my fenced area that I have been saving for a future 40s or 50s model vehicle project, frame swap. I actually got that chassis. I was going to put it under a 48 Chevy Fleetline, a two-door Fleetline I had for a while. I ended up selling the car, but I kept the chassis. So that chassis rolls. So I had to put two wheels on the front of it, but I got it back as a roller, although the rear tire keeps going flat in about 5 minutes. But anyway, I decided I'd stick the body, 56 body, on the S10 chassis, and that way I can roll it. So there it is. What a mess. Look at all this mess out here. So I've got a ton of stuff to clean up and put up and pick up, but I am so glad my neighbor Vandy walked outside to check his mail because he asked me if I needed help, and I said yes I do. So what we ended up doing was I had a board underneath the side of the car, and I lifted it up and got the car up on its side. It wasn't completely up, you know, straight up and down on its side, but Vandy held it. It kind of balanced itself out at one point, so he held it, and I scooted this S10 chassis up under it the best I could, and then told him to drop it, and it fell down on it. And then we used these 4x4 posts and we scooched it over and kind of got it centered the best we can, but at least now it will roll because it's on full-size tires and wheels, and I can roll it into my junkyard. So I had to go in there and cut down grass and all kinds of stuff. I'd already cut a little bit out to get the body cart out, but I had to cut more down and move stuff to get this chassis out. So what a mess this turned into, man, let me tell you. But I pulled the door off because the striker was out of it, and I didn't want the door to get messed up pulling it up on its side. And in the back window, I went ahead and pulled it out because I didn't want it to fall out and shatter. So anyway, I guess now I'm going to get the body cart out of the way and start putting stuff back in there, and then air that tire up and shove that stupid thing back in there. But at least now I'll have the 55 four-door body will be under the carport, because this one, when I come out to work out here on the carport, I just push this out into the driveway out there. So, and then I work all day, and then I put stuff up, and then I roll the body back up here. So I'd rather keep this underneath the carport instead of leaving it out in the weather, because it already tried to kill the grass over here where it was sitting. So anyway, this is a mess, but I've got to load this chassis in the back of my truck, and I got to deliver it to Steve's house in the morning. It's about a 35 or 40 minute drive from here, and he's going to take this to a sandblaster and get it blasted. I think the guy's going to do it Sunday. And then while I'm over by Steve's house, there's a guy over there that has a whole bunch of cool stuff, and I am buying a pair of 55 fenders from him for $150. All right guys, so we got the chassis here at the blaster. I got a unique way I put it in the truck, but it's gonna have to work. It made it. There's Steve over there. Say hi, Steve. All right guys, so I'm over here on an old country road. I'm actually between Pryor, Oklahoma and Strang, Oklahoma. I'm going to show you what the countryside looks like out here, because I do have some subscribers that are, you know, not necessarily from the United States. So this is northeast area of Oklahoma. I'm on my way to a guy's place that has lots of cool stuff. All right, so I'm coming up here to his place now. So this is called Outlaw Customs, and I have known this guy since I was 5 years old. Look at all the goodies here, would you? I'm actually here to look at this 67 Camaro. He wants 500 bucks for it. I'm kidding you. That's a Firebird. It's not for sale. How much is it? Got a title?
Yep.
Oh, that little rig is cool.
Harley Davidson. Great week.
Big back window cab.
Yep. I bird to Tom Myers. Had that option. Nobody bid on that. I get $30.
Oh my God. Couple F1s.
Those squirrels. One of them.
All right, guys. Today is Monday, August 21st, 2023. So going to be working on Steve's car today. So I'm getting ready to get the day started. Looks like it's going to be a week of pretty hot weather and no chance of rain, which is a good thing. So I just got off the phone with Steve. He is bringing the chassis back today. Wow, I'm impressed. So this thing's been sitting in the garage in the same spot for, I don't know, 3 weeks probably. So anyway, I got in it, hit the gas pedal twice, and it started right up and idled. So that's pretty awesome. I've been letting it sit here, I don't know, it's probably been here about 15 minutes so far. The electric fan came on. I'm pretty happy with that. I figured I'd have to crank it over for a while because it, you know, I haven't been started in so long, but I did. I'm gonna wipe that down with the, you know, wipe it off, get the dust off of it, and then I'm gonna put a car cover on it because when I'm out here doing work, you know, metal work and grinding and cutting and just all kinds of crap, all that crap is getting on that paint. So I'm gonna go ahead and put a cover on it to protect it. So, all right, guys, it is hot, man. Heat index of 117 today, so probably not gonna make it much longer out here. It is very, very stagnant. It's hard to breathe. It's so hot out here. It's really bad at where I'm working on this stuff at because there's no airflow through here. There's kind of a breeze outside, but there's nothing in here. And then I have a metal carport with a dark brown, chocolate brown roof on it. And the sun has it heated up, so when you walk out there, you feel like from neck up like you're sticking your head in an oven. So whatever temperature it is on the, you know, down low, you could probably add another 15 or 20 degrees of how hot it is up high. So when I'm out there working on that stuff, I'm sweating it out, you know what I mean? But anyway, I got Steve's chassis here. He delivered this right before lunch. I took that over there Saturday, dropped it off at the blaster, and it's already back today, done. So pretty impressed. It has nothing on it. This is raw metal. That's why it looks gray. I did find a rust hole here. The blaster found it actually. When he blasted it, it went through right there. So I cut that out. I'm gonna be patching that. And then up here, there was a few more little tiny holes. So I used a step bit and opened them up until it got to the, you know, the thickness of the frame. You can tell when you start drilling a rust hole with a step bit like that. You start going at it and it'll just buzz right through there, and then it'll stop and slow down a little bit, and that's when you found good metal. But anyway, I've got a hole there, there, and there. So I'm just going to weld those up and then grind them. But this one I've got to build a patch for. That's actually the piece out of it right there. It has a deep crater you probably can't see. That is almost the whole thing a deep crater, and then it went through at that point. So anyway, they did a decent job on the frame. They didn't do as good a job as my blaster that I know does. They didn't blast down inside all these pockets down in here, which I don't know why. You've got access from both sides to get in there. They didn't even get this buried. They didn't even touch that. And then like right up in here, I mean, I can clearly get to that. But, you know, it looks like they were kind of in a hurry when they did it, I guess. But he only charged Steve 200 bucks, which is still worth it. But all down in them pockets down in there, and they didn't even do the rear back here. Looks like they've done the top edge and the bottom edge and just didn't even do the center. So I can't primer over that. I'm gonna have to blast this. So now I've got to go back over it with my blaster to finish out their job. But all down in there they didn't do. And I haven't seen the top of the chassis yet. They didn't get it in there. They didn't get it in here. So they did kind of get this one. You know, it could have been done better, I can tell you that. So, I mean, still yet, 200 bucks, you know, that definitely saved me. That's definitely worth it for no more than a little bit I got to do now, you know what I mean? But I haven't seen the top of it yet, so I don't know if there's anything on the top. I'm kind of doubting that I've had eyes on the top, but anyway, I think it's going to be great. So, anyway, Steve and I talked a little bit. We're going to do a couple more things to the car. We're going to go ahead and do a side engine mount conversion, because to me that's just a safety thing. You know, some guys will argue there's nothing wrong with front mounts, and all I've got to say is, why did GM go through the trouble in 1958 or 59, I can't remember, I think it was 58, it's when they went to side engine mounts. Why did GM go through the trouble of recasting engine castings, block castings, with bosses on the side of the engine? There's a reason GM did that, you know what I mean? And then after my story that I've told everybody a couple of times of my mom and dad's two-door hardtop in the early 1960s, that left front engine mount broke on them while they were driving the car, and the gas pedal went to the floor. Because when that front engine mount breaks, the weight of the engine goes down in the front left. Mechanical throttle linkage goes back. So that is a safety concern. So, and I know guys still running front mounts. I know guys that are street racing with front mounts. I used to street race when I was a teenager with front mounts in a 55 Chevy. So I even run a cross member kit with front mounts, and that's supposed to be a big no-no, in case anybody didn't know that. The companies don't recommend you using a rear cross member kit with front engine mounts. Don't know why. I street raced with it. But anyway, it's just going to take that one time for something to break anyway. But anyway, we're doing a side engine mount conversion kit, and he's going to go ahead and buy a brand new pair of leaf springs. So that is freaking awesome, because the car right now, you can't really tell in here, it is at least an inch or more lower on the driver's side rear than the left side. So it's probably a combination of the way they cut the frame and capped it or patched it, you know, put a corner piece in, and then a saggy leaf back there. And it's kind of common with leaf spring cars. You never have leaf springs that sag and wear the same, because you've got a driver that, you know, the person that drives the car all the time in the driver's side, you've got that weight of that person getting in that car for years. So it's always going to be lower on the right or on the left than the right. So anyway, he's going to get new leaves, just stock height, replacement leaf springs. The cool part about it is he's bought new shackles for the back, 56 shackles, because that's a 56 chassis, 56 Chevy chassis. So he bought this new shackles because his were pitted. So we'll have new bushings, and then with the new leaf springs, they'll have the new front eye bushings. So it'll be all front and rear new bushings, new leaf springs, new ball joints. Battery died in the GoPro. So I was talking about him replacing the rear leaf, so now he'll have all new front end, like ball joints, idler arm, all that front stuff will be new. All in the rear will be new, so the car should ride and drive fantastic. So that's pretty awesome, you know what I mean? But anyway, I got a lot of work to do, but since the battery has been charging on the GoPro, I've already done a little patchwork here. So I've welded up after I step bitted the holes and opened them back up to good solid thick metal. I've welded those spots, and then I put a patch in back here, and I've got it welded up. All right, guys, it is late in the evening. I got to tell you, this has been the hottest day of the summer so far for me out here working. This is terrible. I am done. But anyway, I didn't get a lot done today, but I just can't do it. I'm gonna have to come out really early in the morning and then just quit, you know, when it gets not much further after lunch, because it's just gonna be too hot. That's all I need is to get sick and pass out from a heat exhaustion or have a heat stroke or something. Anyway, I got the rust holes repaired and ground. They're welded up and ground. I got this piece patched and ground. So now I need to put the hardtop body mounts on the chassis, but I'm also going to need those front engine mounts. Now those front engine mounts he got, you know, they're bolt-on, so you got to remove a couple of rivets off of the frame and then replace it with bolts. But I'm going to want to put some stitch welds on there with it. So I'm probably just going to wait until those come in. I think he ordered those today. But anyway, what's gonna happen to this is, you know, normally when you have something blasted to bare metal, people will put epoxy primer on it. I've talked about this in several of my videos in the past. I don't use epoxy. I use this. This is Rust Defender polyester primer. So I've been using this stuff since the 90s, and most likely I have probably sprayed that more than you. I've used this a bunch. Almost every car I ever built, I've used this stuff. And there's many reasons why. If you're going to use that over your bare metal, you don't need epoxy. I don't care what anybody says. You can call Clausen and talk to them, because I have. So I've actually called that company twice and talked to somebody. You actually talk to a person that knows what the hell they're talking about when you call and have any questions about that stuff. So the reason for using this over epoxy, I'd have to spend over $100, or Steve would have spent over $100 for epoxy to put on this bare metal. Then I'm going to have to go in there and, you know, sand down or grind off the epoxy to fix these areas with putty. This frame is severely pitted from being outside, you know what I mean? This frame has bad pitting in it. So all of that would have to be puttied. Then I'd have to put a primer over that, and then I'd have to sand the primer and then paint it. If you use this stuff right here, this is sealer, this is everything all in one. Primes, seals, and fills. So I can put a couple of heavy coats of this up. We're only worrying about the top section of the frame that you're going to see when the hood's open. We're not going to worry about block sanding the whole thing. But I want all of the inside top edge of this frame to look nice. See how much of this is exposed on a Tri-5? So that part of the frame has to look good. So instead of having to go through and do all that other stuff and spend more money, I can spray this directly on that bare metal. That will block out every one of these pits. I will not have to go in here and putty all this crap up. That will fill every bit of it. And you know what the coolest part is? There's zero shrinkage. So how awesome is that? So people can argue all they want, but if you're doubting what I'm saying, go to Clausen, call him and ask him. He told you, he'll tell you straight up, don't buy epoxy primer. Put that on there. So, and again, you can do what you want, but you don't need to tell me what I need to do, because I know what I'm doing. But anyway, I'm putting that on here, and I will block sand all of the front stub of this frame, and it'll sand completely out, zero, dead flat, straight, and nice. I won't have to do any Bondo work, no putty work, no nothing. And then I'll put the chassis black color right over the top of it. So now on the rear of the frame, it's, you know, pretty bad pitted. He doesn't want me to spend the time going in here and block sanding this whole entire frame to make it perfect. Because at the end of the day, his car is a driver, and he lives down a gravel driveway. So we just care about what it looks like when the hood's up, if he takes it to a car show and stuff. So this back here will all just get kind of scuffed down, and then the frame will be painted. So anyway, it's pretty interesting to me that people doesn't use this stuff. This stuff is about $250 for a gallon of it. But if you bought epoxy, and then you bought filler and putty, and then, you know, like a 2K to put over the top of the epoxy after you do your body filler, you know what I mean? That does it all in one whack. So why not? You know what I mean? I can tell you that is the biggest secret to making a wavy car straight. If you really suck at doing plastic body filler work like sand and filler, that right there, if you can run a block, this will make your car look like a laser down the side of it. It won't wave at you while you're driving down the road from being wavy. So anyway, I've used that stuff since the 90s, and I have not found anything better. That stuff sands like chalk. The aftermarket, the stuff that's supposed to be like that, I don't want to mention the name brand, but it's half the price of that. That stuff's garbage. It's like taking 180 grit to concrete trying to sand it. I'll never buy that cheap crap again. There is no substitute for that right there, I promise you. So again, you can use what you want, but you know, there's going to be somebody that questions, well, why do you need $250 gallon of primer? That's exactly why, what I just explained to you. So it's everything all in one. Block sand it, paint it. I don't have to go in and do putty work and block that and then prime it and then sand it and then paint it. This is going to cut out a couple of stages and it won't shrink. So anyway, that is what's going to be happening to Steve's frame. So I'm going to wait for them engine mounts to come in. I'm probably going to go ahead tomorrow. I'm going to try to get the car jacked up and put on ramps. And I'm going to get under here and I'm going to try to get the hardtop body mounts off of this frame so I can put them on here. And then those will be welded on and done. We don't have any rain in the forecast all week, so I think this should be okay out here. No doubt it'll probably get a little moisture in the evening, but I don't think it's going to be enough, because at the end of the day I'm going to go over it with some Scotch-Brite pads anyway, and then wipe it all, blow it off and then wipe it all down before I paint it. So anyway, it will look good, but all of the slag tracks and all the garbage on this chassis up on the top side, you know, from the factory welds and all that stuff, it'll look like $1,000,000 on the top, man. So that's the plan. So thanks for watching.